Even writing I can read. That's how you know I didn't write it. Thanks, Alex. Thanks, Chelsea, for real, because you wrote it.
Hey, Ben, can you
We get a mic check, please, Ben.
Yes, we can. Ven Johnson, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Testing, testing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I need this a little higher, y'all.
You're good. You're good.
Is that okay?
Yep. Are you guys all good? Ready to go? We're good? You just point at me and then I'll let you know once you
Thank you, sir. In Saginaw, that'd be supper time, so I gotta go. No, that was the cowbell. Forget it. And no, I'm not kidding. That's real. That's what Mom rang.
gotta get you down a little bit or over. We got the shot right here.
No, not here. I shot Dave. Yeah, just come right here. You're good.
Perfect.
Yeah, you're good.
Ben, ready?
I was born ready, Justin. Good morning. Thank you for being here. I want to acknowledge the people immediately behind me. These are the brave souls that 5 years ago today somehow survived the tidal wave of destruction that came down when the two dams were completely breached and destroyed, just like folks for years had been predicting, while the state of Michigan did absolutely nothing. And even worse than doing nothing, they then added to it by demanding that water levels be raised, ultimately culminating in the devastating loss that the folks here in this area suffer and think about every single day from then to now. We're here 5 years later, and for many people that seems to be a surprise. And the sad reality is, think about the Flint water tragedy, because there's your blueprint for how the state of Michigan deals with infrastructure failure. No one went to jail, no one was prosecuted, and it was the civil lawyers who did what they did and exactly what we're doing in this case to try to bring some semblance of justice that took them 8.5 years before the state of Michigan stepped up and began to take responsibility and pay for the damage of the lives that they cost and all the damage that they caused. But even so, that litigation, in many respects, is ongoing even today. So sadly, I stand before you with these folks from the surrounding counties that we look at that and say, yeah, state of Michigan, we know what you're doing. You've engaged in this defend, delay, deny process for 5 years, and we know it's not over. But we know that every single day, we are not going to forget what we've been through. We are not going to forget what the end game is, and that's to prevent this from happening to anybody else ever again. And if it does, state of Michigan, you cannot just walk over us and turn your head and your eye. You have to step up and be responsible for what you owe us, and that's infrastructure. I proudly stand here before you with some folks from my office, Marissa Hoffman, our great paralegal, to her left, Chris Desmond, our chief appellate attorney, to Chris's left and my immediate right, Kevin Carlson of the Pitt McGee Law Firm. Great lawyers who, unbeknownst to most people, have been working on this case literally since 5 years ago today. We have ongoing meetings every single week where a series of 25 lawyers all over Michigan and some from all over the country meet and discuss and talk about how we are proceeding against the state. Not a single dime has been collected. Let me repeat that. Not a single dime has been collected by these folks behind me, the true victims or survivors, nor on behalf of their attorneys. Not a single dime has been offered by the state of Michigan to step up to do the right thing. When we look at the litigation tactics of the state, a few things you gotta know are significant. We started this case again back within a month or two after this tragedy in April or May of 19 of 2020. And then the state filed motion to throw the case out before they even allowed us to gather evidence. The following year, Judge Stevens, that's the first of 3 different judges that we've been assigned in this case because of the timeline. Judge Stevens found in favor of these fine folks and said, no, the case should proceed to trial. State of Michigan, they have an automatic right of appeal to the Court of Appeals. Now, sorry for the lawyer, blah, blah, blah. You and I in a civil case do not have an automatic right of appeal to the Michigan Court of Appeals if we lose something in a trial court. But since we sue the state government or a municipal person, they have that right. So welcome to governmental immunity. Welcome to the corporate shell game of suing the state of Michigan. The Michigan Court of Appeals ultimately agreed with us, but of course that took a year to a year and a half to do. Goes back to the trial court. The state files another motion, another dismissal motion, so they seek. Appeal to the Court of Appeals again. Finally, it goes back in October of 2023. 2023. So I just skipped over, right? 3 years for you. You're welcome. Judge Shapiro, Judge 2 of ours, wrote a scathing opinion. Here's what he said, and I'm quoting. We can provide this to you. It's in his opinion in order that's online, October of 23. This is Judge Shapiro, not Ven Johnson. While not relevant to the legal question regarding this court's jurisdiction, the court notes that this case was filed over 3 years ago and that no answer has ever been filed. Answer is what a defendant like the state is supposed to file and say, we deny allegations or not. They hadn't even filed an answer, folks. They were too busy playing appellate games. Why? Kick the can down the road so the next administration has to pay for it, and this one doesn't. Not a single answer has been filed, and that no discovery has yet occurred in light of repeated defendants, state of Michigan's, time-consuming and unsuccessful attempts to, time-consuming and unsuccessful attempts to obtain appellate reversal of this court's June 29, 2021 order, denying in part defendant's motion for summary disposition. Translation, this is a trial judge spanking the state of Michigan, say, stop playing games. Get to defending the lawsuit and go ahead and defend your position if that's what you want to do. Stop playing these games. Judge Shapiro, judicial efficiency, fairness, and preservation of evidence all require that the case now progress without further delay. So what did they do? What did they do? They delayed it more. Welcome to the state of Michigan lawsuit tactics, litigation strategy, Flint water tragedy, Midland dam breach tragedy, 1 and 1A. Where are we at now? Well, thankfully now we have our third judge, Judge Jim Redford. Judge Redford, his courtroom that we all go to and have been many a times with my co-counsel, is down in Grand Rapids. And Judge Redford has allowed us to do discovery. And as part of the discovery all means where we can take depositions and and actually proffer testimony and find exhibits and find evidence that will be introduced at trial. Before we even finished our part of the discovery, what did the state do? Yep, they filed another motion to dismiss. This time they say, okay, they have their evidence now. Here's what it is. We still win. Judge Redford, about a week ago, Friday, ruled that once again, that failed. But again, I'm now jumping from October of 23 to now May of 2025. 2 more years. And what's going to happen now? Well, we won that. Judge Redford was asked by the state, hey, can we appeal again? He says, I'm not giving it to you. If you want to, go ask them. So you know the state is going to appeal again to the Michigan Court of Appeals, and it's up to the Michigan Court of Appeals to say yes or no. We, of course, these fine lawyers next to me, will be objecting to that, filing motions to dismiss and so forth in the Court of Appeals. Sadly, this is a months, plural, long process. So what is it that these folks are looking for? And the answer is one word: justice. They are looking for the state to be held accountable. If the state doesn't truly think they did something wrong, just like they say they did in the Flint water tragedy, guess they were wrong since they paid over $400 million to settle that case. If they don't think they did something wrong, then take it to court and prove it in court. Have your right. It's not a jury trial in this case. It's going to be just before Judge Redford. Right now we have trial scheduled, folks, for January of 2026. And if we're allowed to proceed, then state, defend yourself, put on your evidence, and let Judge Redford make his ruling. If we win there too, you know what they'll do. They'll appeal again. So you're looking at 2-3 years down the line, and then of course, if we win there, you know who they'll go to. They'll go to the Michigan Supreme Court. So we know the roadmap. We've seen it. And we are here before you folks today, and this is just, these folks are representative of over the 2,000 people that have collectively retained law firms and are working with lawyers to try to obtain justice. Don't forget about these folks, because we have. I'm going to ask a couple of people to make some brief comments today, and sorry, but my brain goes downriver. So I want to talk, I asked Mike Callan, my client, and Lisa Callan, his wife, who literally were right on the breach of the storm, man. They live right down the river from Edenville Dam. And I want them to share with you just a couple of things of what happened. And I've got 2 more folks further downriver. I want you folks to hear, folks. A lot of times when we talk about these cases, we don't think about the various locations and the devastation of the people and the lives that so many people in Lansing would love to forget. So Mike and Lisa, can you come up and share just a couple of thoughts about what today means to you folks and what happened 5 years ago today? Come on up, right
Yep.
with Mike, guys.
So yeah,
Right up on it.
here we are 5 years later. Like Ven said, state of Michigan just keeps kicking the can, and nothing's happening. It's it's just getting rough on us. More and more every year. It just gets harder and harder. Now it's sad enough. We have a double mortgage, still paying on this property, and now we have a water assessment coming. My water assessment is about $48,000 for a piece of property that is absolutely, nothing there. The burden on us is just getting harder and harder every year. For the state of Michigan to drag this on, kick the can, it's just, it's getting rougher and rougher. We're all for the lakes. Everybody's for the lakes coming back and whatnot, but it's going to get to the point where there ain't going to be nobody that can afford to live on the lakes anymore. Some of these older elderly people, they're on fixed budgets, stuff like that. They start raising taxes for assessments and this and that, kicking the can. There ain't going to be nobody here to pay for the assessments because nobody can afford it. I don't understand the state of Michigan, and their concept on just delaying. We're not making any ground here, so it's not it's getting harder. It's getting harder financially. We've held out, tried not to, file bankruptcy and, ruin my business and, ruin everything that we worked so hard for. I mean, we weren't at fault for this. And, they just want to keep, delaying and destroying people's, dreams and everything of living on the lakes, It's just, it's crazy. It's ridiculous.
Lisa, do you want to say anything?
I'm thankful for the evacuation that happened, that we didn't lose our lives, but I've lost stuff, pictures, things that I can't replace. I don't know, it's not even like money worthy, it's just my worthy. It's what I would love to look at, and I don't know, it's been rough, and then just one bad news after another, just waiting and nothing's happening.
It's not getting any easier, and it's rough on her and the family and everybody here that lives on the lake. It's everybody thinks, oh, it'll pass and time will pass, but time don't make up for the loss that they got when you're still stuck paying for everything, and now they're making it worse because you got to pay for more. So,
yeah, pay for losing everything. We're paying to lose everything.
Thank you, guys. Great job.
Thank you.
Great job. So coming down the river, I want to talk and ask Carl Hannum to come on up. Carl was not only a resident right there in Sanford, but obviously was on the in government in that city. So talk about all the things that he knew about beforehand that were predictive of that very day. It's really sad to hear. But Carl, will you come on up and share a little bit? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Ben. Good afternoon. My name is Carl Hammond. I'm a resident of the village of Sanford. I'm also a councilman for the village of Sanford. I've been a councilman for over 20 years. And unfortunately, what we've seen on May 19th of 2020, we knew that was going to happen. We just didn't know when it was going to happen. Prior to the dam failure in 2020, in September and August, 2 days, we did a role play mock-up of that issue. We had a scripted script that was brought in by a professional. Every first responder, every government agency, every police department, the hospitals, everyone in 4 counties were involved with that. We did a 2-day mock-up role play of it, and it didn't end well. It started at Seacourt and went down the lake. And about what happened on May 19th of 2020, we went through. What we came up with that, with the emergency managers of 2 counties, was a way to inform people and tell them that when we come in and tell you that you need to get out, you need to get out. And that's what happened on May 19th of 2020. Unfortunately, I was busy helping other residents, so I never took anything out of my house. My house wasn't in the floodplain. I'm 1 block south of the Sanford Dam. So during that time, I lost everything I owned and worked for 50 years. And my village, an entire neighborhood, when I say was gone, we came back and 15 houses were not there. They were somewhere between Midland and the Saginaw Bay. I deal with these people every day and I see their pain. I rebuilt and I came back and I stayed, but because of that, my appraisal on my house is now doubled, and I refinanced it for 30 years so I could stay. I will never pay off my house. And with the special assessments that these people behind me are seeing, and unfortunately that was set up prior to the dams failing. So that's the way that the counties were going to try to achieve these dams back to the county so they could take over, because they knew that these dams were in trouble since 1986. Go back and look at the court records on it. It goes all the way back to Wolverine Power Company, to Syntax that took it over during that bankruptcy. This has been a long problem. They knew they were not capable of a major flow. Now, we have seen what happened. The state of Michigan knew this was going to happen. When Burke pulled the license on that dam on Wixom Lake, I don't know if you understand dams, but you can't pass water through turbines that's not hooked to the grid. When you pull that out, you reduce its capacity to flow. They knew that. It was already done. Eagle.
2018, FERC did that.
2018. Eagle knew that it couldn't flow the capacity, and we faced a major rain event. We got 7 inches of rain north of us that directly flows through that flood zone down to this spot here. We knew that. The state of Michigan knew that. Nobody did anything about it. Everybody argued about litigations, and that's where they had all the litigations for years, and it destroyed. And Ven said there's 2,000 people being represented by Ven and several attorneys. There's tens of thousands of people that this event affected, and they don't have voices to come up and speak for them. All these people behind me, I'm grateful that they came out, but it takes a lot of guts to come up and stand in front of cameras like this. So I took it upon myself to represent those people that can't. I know what I lost, and I know there's a lot of people that through this process are going to lose their homes. When you go up the lake and see the small homes that are there that they inherited, they're worth about $27,000 roughly. Their assessment is the same as a house on the lake, and you can check this out, it's on the website, at a $580,000 home that was just purchased, their assessment's the same. How are you going to do that to these people? If they're living on, and I'm on Social Security, if you're living only on Social Security, I can't afford another $5,000 a year tax. I can't do it. I'll have to walk away from the place that I've been at for 35 years. I've been on this lake since 1967 when my parents bought a place up on Mary Court and Easy Street. We were living on Easy Street. My dad had a business in Bridgeport, Michigan. If they were still there today, they would have to walk away from it because they couldn't pay for the special assessments and the taxes. So I'm asking the state of Michigan to stand up and do the right thing. Look at these people behind you. Look at these people. We're not rich people. There are people on the lake that can afford it, but not these people. They're just the average everyday person. State of Michigan, come on. They're hurting and I'm hurting. And some of us aren't that long for this world. Unfortunately, age has a tendency to take that away from you. And I'm pretty fortunate right now that I'm in good health. Some people aren't. So I'm calling out to the state of Michigan, and I'm calling out to our representatives to take action. Let's get this done and taken care of. This is 5 years later. I might not be here in 5 years. Some of these people behind me might not be here in 5 years. Let's not take it to that. I'm sorry if I got too much.
No, you did great job. Great job. Great job, Carl. Next, I'd ask Coach Kurt Yockey to come on up. Kurt is not only someone that lives up in the Midland area, but further downriver, and he can tell you about what happened to him in his home. I've known Kurt forever. He's a lawyer buddy of mine. We've gone to battle many a time. He claims he's won each time. I don't know about that, but anyway, it's my pleasure to represent him, and I want him to share with you what happened to him and his family and what they see 5 years later. Coach Yockey?
Thank you, Van. Thanks for the opportunity to speak today. What you've heard already is the result of the uncaring, somewhat dishonest, if you ask me, and incompetent state officials and agencies. And to have an event that was 5 years ago not resolved at this point, it has nothing to do with the work that Ven and the others have done, has everything to do with the state of Michigan. I'm here to talk with you about essentially the impact that it had on me and my family. We had a home in town that I bought because my office is in the Detroit area, and I had no intent on moving to Midland except that there was a house on a street here that I always loved, and we bought it. And so my office is still in Farmington Hills, but I was living here in Midland. And he calls me coach because I coached at Midland High now for 51 years, and I coached at Bull Creek for a while as well. I care a lot about this community. But just briefly, what happened to me was this house that we moved 2 hours for was flooded out in that event, where before that house had never been flooded. Would not have been flooded this time if the state had done the appropriate thing. Real briefly, it is something to think about when you see all the belongings of your home being taken out and put at the curb to be picked up by a lift truck and put in a dump truck and taken away. So 40 years of memories of kids, photographs, videotapes. I have a picture of every high school football team that I coached from 1973 when Ven was 3 years old. Which is until the day of the flood. I lost all of that. Lost all the furniture. Some of it was handmade that I had worked on forever, working on cases. It takes a long time to put together. To have that kind of work done for yourself, and it's all gone. I would just like to say that the impact on the family was not just losing things, but knowing that a home that you really want to live in forever is gone. And we had to sell it as is because it was too far destroyed. And that's what I wanted to bring to you this morning.
Thank you. Great job, Kevin. Thank you. All right, I want to introduce Kevin Carlson of the Pitt McGee Law Firm. Pitt McGee and Kevin in particular, folks, his law firm did phenomenal work in the Flint water tragedy, so he can certainly address the similarities between the two. But along with our firm's Chris Desmond, our chief appellate attorney, Kevin has done a phenomenal job of spearheading many things in this litigation, but work along with Chris, and I'd love Kev to say some stuff on behalf of himself and his firm and his clients. Kev?
Thanks, Ven. And we have an outstanding coalition of lawyers representing the people who survived this flood from 2019. The dam failure in May of 2020 was not just a natural disaster. It was a failure of government, and it wasn't just a breach of a dam. It was a breach of trust. The people of the state of Michigan, especially folks like the people we represent, trust and rely on government officials to enforce the safety standards for the operation of dams in the state of Michigan. And what the state officials knew here by January of 2020, at the very latest, was that the Edenville Dam did not meet the minimum safety requirements for a dam to continue operating in the state of Michigan. They knew the dam was not safe for continued operation. That's what they knew. The people behind me, the people that live downstream from this dam, they didn't know that. They couldn't take matters into their own hands and start evacuating early. They count on the state acting behind closed doors to know that when a dam is unsafe for continued operation, there's one thing you shouldn't do to it: load up the lake behind it with more water. But that's what the state authorized the dam operator to do. They knew the dam was not safe for continued operation, and they authorized loading up Wixom Lake with more water anyway. 5 weeks later, the dam failed. When it failed in May of 2020, I think we all remember, I had just built out a little makeshift corner of my basement as a home office. I couldn't go to my office anymore. I was putting a bandana over my face to go grocery shopping at Meijer at 5:30 in the morning when there'd be fewer people there. And these people got chased out of their homes in the middle of a pandemic. They were trying to call lawyers. They were meeting with us in their backyards. We were standing on tops of picnic tables. We were standing on decks behind people's houses, trying to find places to meet outdoors where everyone's spread apart, 6 feet apart here and there. People are calling me, returning my calls from parking lots. They're trying to find hotel rooms. They're trying to find a place to take a shower, trying to find a place to charge their phone so that they can call me or they can call loved ones and find a place to stay. 2 of my clients who are here today had an elderly parent living with them. They had built special accommodations in their home to accommodate this elderly loved one. They had to try to find a place for her to go. They moved her to California because they were displaced from their home by this disaster. And so 5 years later, with no accountability from the state, it's easy to look at what we're dealing with now. We're dealing with the January trial date. We're going to be prepared to prove our case, but we shouldn't forget what everyone went through in May of 2020 when they were chased out of their homes by this disaster. And they're here because they've patiently waited 5 years for accountability, and it's about time that they got some. Thank you.
Okay, I know I promised you I would be out of here by 11. I understand your noon air date, so but I would be remiss if I didn't ask, since this case has been all about the appeals, Chris Desmond, Ven Johnson Law's chief appellate attorney, to say a couple words and give you his thoughts. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you very much, Ven. I know Ven and Kevin and our clients have very ably discussed for each of you today how this has affected their lives. The one thing that I'd like to point out today is that for the media outlets that aren't local, right? This is a mid-Michigan story. This is a Midland story, and we know here people understand the way that it's devastated lives. But I can tell you that when you're in Metro Detroit, when you're in Lansing, where a lot of our elected officials are, when you're in Grand Rapids or Ann Arbor throughout the state, it's easy to take a tragedy like this that occurs, and when it's not in the news every day, to kind of, forget the fact that even though you're not reading about the state's failings every day, it doesn't mean that those failings aren't still continuing to impact people and devastate people's lives. And so for the rest of us who live elsewhere, who fortunately weren't impacted by the failures of our state's infrastructure, just know that your neighbors, they don't have that same good fortune that you've had. And so when you're able to go and you're able to sleep in your home and have those family memories that you've worked for preserved, there are other people in this state that are suffering and that are going to continue to suffer, in part because of the work that your state representatives or your elected officials have either done or are not currently doing. And so for people to keep that present in their mind and to think about those who are less fortunate than them that we see behind us today is imperative if we want actual change to happen.
Good job. Thanks. I want to apologize to the folks behind me. Good job. Because I would love for everybody to hear literally every story, because I think that's the only way that anybody that's not here, or especially loud enough for folks in Lansing to hear, is going to actually listen. Not just hear, but listen. But in view of your folks' deadlines, I apologize, folks. I intended more of you to speak, and I'm sorry for that. If there are questions, now's the time, and then we'll wrap up. You guys can get to your deadlines. Thank you.
Do you have any confidence that this is going to go to trial in January, or do you just think it's going to keep going and going and going?
Well,
like you said earlier.
Confidence is important, right? But one's past history often dictates where they go. So, yeah, I'm concerned that they're going to try to appeal, and that even when we oppose that appeal, it will take many months, if not over a year, for that decision to be made. But I can assure you this, they can run, but they cannot hide. We will be ready to go to trial in January if that's the case. And if it's delayed because of yet a fourth appeal, when that fails, just like the other three have, we'll be ready then.
You're involved in a great many civil lawsuits. How does the state of Michigan's legal strategy compare to some of the more egregious groups that you've had to deal with? Is this as bad as it gets?
I think that when I compare it to what I think to be one of the worst infrastructure failures in the United States history, of being fresh water being obviously sent away and poisoned water being given to children and people in the city of Flint, I can't think of a worse thing to compare this to, but they're identical.
But as far as, say, when you're dealing with corporations and groups like that, I mean, is this as bad as the worst corporations?
Okay. Now, it's a great difference. Thank you for asking that question. The answer is no, because corporations are not entitled to an automatic right of appeal when a trial judge rules against them before trial and gives them what they think is a bad ruling for them. They don't automatically get to have an appeal. Where if you're a state entity or you're a municipality, you do. So one of many things that you all hear, I'm sure, are sick of hearing me talk about governmental immunity and all of the unconstitutional aspects of it. The appellate process that we currently are stuck with because of the law, where they get these automatic, they are abusing it. They abused it in the Flint case. They're abusing it here. And I might add with other entities or other cases that I talked to you about offline, sir, in terms of governmental entities where they've injured or killed people, they follow the same format. It's easy to be seen. They want to delay this until another administration has to pay for it. Pretty easy. It's economics. It's politics.
So what do you say to the people behind you who have obviously been waiting all this time? How do you keep them going? How do you keep their spirits up, knowing that this is going to take a while?
Unfortunately, I wish I was capable of doing that, but I'll tell you, right? Someone said buy a lottery ticket. The answer is very difficult, and I wish I had better answers for my clients. I don't. All I can do is keep going and doing what we can do one step at a time. The legal process is obviously one set upon laws and rules, and what we see in this case is a perfect example of why those rules and those laws need to be changed, because it affects people every single day, and it ain't going to change until we make a change. And that's what I'm hoping by drawing attention to this 5 years in a row that we finally do.
Ben, we have a question online. Is there a limit to how many times the state can appeal?
Apparently not. Great question. The question is there a limit on how many times they can appeal? And I asked that. That's a rhetorical question. The answer is no. There's nothing in a law book that says they can't do more. We write that law. Thank you, ma'am. Great suggestion. It needs to end. Automatic right of appeals. And here's the difference. And I'm sorry, this is the lawyer blah, blah, blah. When you don't have an automatic right, you can ask the Court of Appeals. It's called a leave application. These guys can talk about it better than me. You can ask the Court of Appeals to review the situation, but the difference being is it doesn't stop the trial from going forward. So the case still gets processed. That's the big difference, the distinction that matters here. But with the automatic right of appeal, that means stop what's going on in the trial court and allow the appellate court to look at it. And that's what has got to change.
How many residents are involved in the collective lawsuits?
We count over 2,000 residents involved, but has been brought to your attention today, much better stated than I can. There are hundreds, if not thousands, more folks that aren't there that don't have the benefit of that representation. But right now, when we collectively add up our cases, there are well over 2,000 folks.
Why do you feel that the state is continuing to neglect its residents?
The state is neglecting its residents because we allow them to get away with it. We have to change the laws, but one of their branches of government makes the laws. So the laws are bent in favor of those who pass the laws. Welcome to governmental immunity.
We'll open it up to anyone else.
Last question.
Okay. We appreciate everybody's attendance today. Most importantly, folks behind us and the sides of us, thank you for everything. And we have not forgotten you. In the state of Michigan, we're right here. Thank you.
As always. Good job.
Tommy! Tommy! Right there?
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean,